The Plympton Podcast.
Hello, I'm Andrew Hill, and welcome to the October 2017 edition of the Plympton Podcast, the area's online community audio magazine covering events and happenings in Plympton and surrounding areas. Something special for this edition is interviews with a couple of well-known celebrities, but we start this month at the recent meeting of the Plympton Community Council, where the guest speaker for the evening was Lucy Goldring from the British Red Cross. She set out details of a new project which is being launched here in Plympton.
I am the Service Manager for Connecting Communities, which is a new project that the Red Cross has set up in partnership with the Co-op. So I think this is a very good location because we've got a Co-op store just across there and I passed another Co-op store on the way into Plympton. So you might have seen our fundraising buckets over the last couple of years within the Co-op stores. So they've raised in excess of £5.5 million for the Red Cross to target loneliness and social isolation. So what's happened with that money is we put it into 45 brand new projects across the country. So luckily Plymouth has been chosen as one of those projects. Now rather than trying to tackle the whole of Plymouth, which will be a massive project, we've pinpointed for two areas that we felt needed the support the most. Those areas are Devonport and Plympton. So two very different areas, very different needs and very different sort of socio-economic backgrounds to both areas, but equally deserving. So the point of our service is to support people who are lonely or socially isolated. So the reason we give it those two different terms is that you can be lonely even if you're surrounded by lots of people. You can have lots of people around you in your day-to-day life, but still feel lonely at times. So being lonely doesn't mean being alone. Plenty of people live alone and live isolated lives and are happy and don't feel lonely or don't feel that their loneliness is an issue. But plenty of people do have that problem. And I don't know if anyone knows that much about the British Red Cross and the background of who we are and what we do. But our bottom line is that we refuse to ignore people in crisis. And that is anyone. It can be any situation. And we will do all that we can to help that person. So there are massive problems that we deal with on a day-to-day basis around the country. But a major problem that we don't think is dealt with enough is loneliness. And it's quite often something that can be swept under the rug and not necessarily seen as a big problem. And so we wanted to do as much as we could to tackle this. Equally, we find that a lot of services that are out there to support people who aren't lonely tend to aim at the older age groups, whereas we see loneliness from anyone. Younger people can feel lonely, middle-aged people can feel lonely. It's not dependent on your age, it's dependent on yourself as a person and your situation in your life. So with our partnership with the Co-op, part of the funding went into research about what makes people lonely, and we found that major life changes contribute to people sort of starting to feel lonely. So we pinpointed 6 main sort of life changes that can set someone who maybe wasn't lonely before on a path to being lonely and socially isolated. And those sort of main categories are becoming a new parent, particularly young parents, being divorced or separated, recently retiring, becoming unwell for a long period of time, so having long-standing health conditions, and bereavement as well. So they're all things that a lot of people will go through within their life. And it doesn't have to be someone who is older, it could be someone who is younger, and you can still go across any of those life changes at any point in your life. So one of the sort of best parts of our project, I suppose, is that we're open to anyone over 18. There's not really any other referral criteria apart from being over 18 and living within Plympton, or having a GP registered within Plympton, or Devonport. So we're really there to help anyone who's in the community who maybe feels lonely and socially isolated. One of the great things we picked up about Plympton as a community is that you've got lots of really good community spirit here, you've got lots of clubs and activities for people to get into. One of the things we're most worried about is what about the people who don't link into that, or maybe don't know it's there, or haven't got the confidence to go out and do those things, or maybe it's even just stepping out the front door can be a big barrier to people. How do we get those people into your wonderful clubs and into your wonderful community? That's what we want to focus on. So we've set up the project here. We have a wonderful gentleman who works for us called Matt. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, so I've stepped in his place. Another thing that we're trying to do is make this completely volunteer-led, if possible, partly because we think the people who live in the community know the most about the community. It's not rocket science. If you live here, you know the area quite well, you know what's around, you know the people that lonely people could link in with. So we want to try to find local volunteers to help us to provide the support to people. The volunteering role is only a couple of hours a week. It's nothing too time-consuming. It's all within the local area. We don't expect you to travel massive distances. All we ask is that you can provide a couple of hours a week to provide a bit of support to someone who is maybe lonely in the community and help them to do the things they enjoy again. We've had a brilliant example of a lady who lives in Madrid, which is close to where I live, who lost her husband a couple of years ago. She didn't really know anyone else in the community. She kept herself to herself, wasn't really that interested in going out and about. But she did find that she got very, very lonely because she didn't have anyone there to talk to. So she contacted us and asked for our help. And one of our lovely volunteers, Andrea, went along to see her and chatted about her interests and her hobbies. And it turned out she quite liked going walking. And she loved dogs as well. So we thought, well, the perfect thing for her to do would be to go on a dog walking group. She didn't have a dog, but we found her a group that accepted people without dogs to come along and play with the other dogs. And so she now goes to that group once a week, every Monday, and she's made a great group of friends there, and she's also looking to get a dog of her own. So that tackles that problem once a week as well as for her at home. So that's just a little sort of snippet of what we can do, but it can be pretty much anything that person wants. We haven't got a tick list of what they can and can't do. It's the world is their oyster, as I like to say. So so if anyone's interested in maybe volunteering for the service, I'd love to hear from you. Equally, if you've got anyone in mind that you think, oh, Mrs. Smith down the road doesn't see anyone, I might have a chat to her and see if this is something she would like. You can always give her a leaflet. Equally as important, it is a free service, so there's no charge for it. We are completely funded by the co-op, so we're not going to sting you in the tail and ask you for some money at the end of it. It is a free service, and it really is just there to help people.
And later on, we'll be hearing Lucy's reply to some of the questions Community Council members had to raise about the Red Cross's new Connecting Communities project here in Plympton. The retail shopping area in Seymour Road has been rejuvenated in the past year, and a special open day was held to showcase those new businesses in the area. I went along in my role as Stanator to formally open the event.
Right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Seymour Stores open day. This particular area of Plympton, when the original Seymour Stores closed down, did become a little bit of a wilderness for a couple of years, but it's brilliant that some new businesses have now come into the area and have regenerated this part of Plympton. With a new physiotherapy outlet here, also the tattoo parlour next door, also the coffee and tea shop, which I know has become a bit of a community hub here, and the hairdressers next door as well. And this has really engendered a lot more community spirit in this important part of Plympton. So thank you all very much indeed for coming along here today. I wish all the businesses all the very best for their future here trading on this site. If you're not familiar with the businesses, do make a point of calling into the various premises we have here to find out more about what they do and to take advantage of the various offers that they have on here today. And with that, it's my very great pleasure to declare formally open our open day here for Seymour Stores today.
Among the planning applications related to Plympton which have been heard recently was one which concerned a residential property in Magdalen Road, where proposed alterations to the property were being opposed by a neighbour in St Maurice Road. Since the application was first lodged, negotiations had taken place between the applicant and council officers, with the result that a proposed tapered roof would be substituted with a flat one. A council officer explained the application to planners, after which the applicant himself addressed the committee.
So this application has been referred to Planning Committee by the ward member. The application is for a side extension to provide an accessible bedroom and bathroom to the ground floor and a new staircase to the first floor, a replacement staircase. Amended plans have been negotiated during the course of the application. The amended plans reduce the impact on the neighbour. The neighbour facing the side have objected to the proposal. Officers have considered the impact and concluded the impact is acceptable and recommend the application is approved. A letter of support has been received, which is covered in the addendum report. The letter explains the family's needs for their disabled child and the reasons behind the design. So no changes are proposed to the officer recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
Sorry, shall I take you through the slides?
Some of us went on the site visit there, so we're familiar with it, the site and so on. We have, in support of the application, the speaker, Mr. Lindsay.
Good evening. In 2007, I moved into Magdalen Gardens with my family and rent my home from Plymouth Community Homes. We are a happy family, but like others, we face some challenges as our eldest child is severely disabled. Leo is 12-year-old now, but is cognitive and developmental age of an 18-month to 2-year-old little boy. Leo has a complex cognitive and physical behavioural needs and requires constant one-to-one supervision as a minimum to reduce the risk of harm to both himself and others. Leo has post-meningitis cerebral palsy type symptoms including reduced field of vision, reduced balance and mobility. He has permanent weakness down the right side of his body, affecting his ability to move some of his limbs. He has brain damage which reduces his cognitive function and insight. He has epilepsy, global development delay, severe learning disabilities, extreme complex and challenging behaviour, access safely, and that is large enough for all his equipment. For example, Leo's incontinent, and we currently have no choice but to change nappies on the living room floor, which is not dignified for a 12-year-old boy. This is a new room which would have a specialist changing table and space to store nappies and also his chair. Leo also needs a safe, hygienic space for us to keep him clean. We currently have a family bathroom that does not have the space to manage Leo's behaviour whilst he's in the shower and conduct his personal care. The extension is positioned in order to maintain the family's home during the building the works, as it's not feasible for us to move out during the works due to Leo's complex needs. It is not safe for Leo to use the stairs, and so he needs a bedroom and bathroom on the ground floor. I currently have to carry Leo up and down the stairs at least once a day. But I shouldn't be doing this as he is over the weight limit for me to do this. The staircase has been moved into a new location in order to provide a door through to the new bedroom from the hallway. The stairs also need to have
1 minute remaining.
Lockable door at the bottom to prevent Leo from gaining access to the stairs. And we support him and others support him are unsafe. The door to the extension cannot be positioned at the front of the existing staircase, as it would mean the staircase would not be secure. Leo is my son and I want to care for him home as long as possible. In order to do this needs the right environment. Without this, I fear I would have to care for him by others in an institution. Looking to the future, we understand as tenants we no longer need this property and all its adaptations. Someone else in our situation could benefit from these adaptations provided for Leo at a later date. I hope, therefore, you agree to approve the plan permission to provide the work for Leo.
Thank you very much indeed.
And we'll be hearing the committee's deliberations on that application a little later on. At Plympton Priory, during last month's Heritage Open weekend, a new visitor centre was opened. As Senator, I was invited to go along to the opening and to say a few words.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this historic site of Plympton Priory, which I'm sure many of you will know a lot about its history and its importance to the community of Plympton and its historic nature. Today we're going to be opening the visitor centre that you see behind me, and this really is the culmination of 2 decades of work on this site. 20 years ago, this really did need a lot of work to bring it to the condition that you see it in today. And that really has been largely down to the work of one gentleman here, John Bolden, who's put in countless hours here over so very many years. It's hoped that this visitor centre will engender a lot more interest in this Priory site, because even now there are a lot of people in Plympton who don't even know that the Priory is here, let alone about its history. And we hope that over the forthcoming weeks, months and indeed years, that this will enable this very historic site, which is a registered ancient monument, to get a lot more interest among members of the Plympton and wider Plymouth community. John has put a lot of work into actually getting this building up and running here today, and we have very high hopes for what it might achieve for the future. In terms of opening it, I just want to say the few words that I have, but really as John has been the one who's done so much work in bringing this project to fruition, I think it would be appropriate for him to actually open the door to signify that this project is now open to our local community. So John.
Thank you, Andrew. I was going to give it you one of those. I couldn't find it. But I want to make it clear, it's not just me. We've got a team down here every Thursday morning doing this, and I'm not going to mention who they are. They know who they are, but I think they deserve a round of applause as well. Thank you very much. I am going to list inside the door in a minute so you can see who they are. It's not just my efforts. I want to thank everybody, you for coming, and for my helpers for helping. Right, I'll do this one. I've done it before, man. And I'm afraid there's not a lot of room inside. Although it is a visitor centre, it's not really built for this many visitors. So while you're waiting...
How does it feel when you stop smoking?
Brilliant, I've finally quit.
I feel like I've got my life back.
I was so proud of myself.
I feel a lot richer.
It feels good.
I just feel fitter and healthier.
I felt much happier.
It's an amazing feeling when you stop smoking. With the help of NHS Smoke Free, you could experience that feeling for yourself. Our range of support tools, which includes face-to-face guidance from advisors, helps maximise your chances of success. Go online now and search for Smoke Free.
The Plympton Podcast.
Earlier, we heard Lucy Goldring telling us about the Red Cross's new Connecting Communities project. One of the questions which came up was the extent to which volunteers would receive training.
So yes, we offer full training, and every volunteer comes on board with the Red Cross, does the same training course. Whether you're a paramedic, whether you're a staff member, or whether you're a community sector volunteer, everyone will do the same training. We call it the Foundation Training Programme, and it covers everything you would ever need to know that you might come across on a day-to-day basis. So I think one of the most important things that you've maybe brought up there is safeguarding. So what to do if you're in a situation where you suspect someone isn't looking after themselves, or perhaps being abused by someone else. So we give full training on that. But most importantly, you'll never be alone in that situation. There will always be a line manager that you can go to. You'll have their phone number. You'll only be put out on duty when they're working, so you can give them a call if you've got any questions or concerns. You can call them up. If you're not comfortable talking to that person, you can come to me as well. So I manage 5 different services, and each of those services has a staff member who runs the service. The training is brilliant as well. I can't harp on about the training enough. It's really good, and we run the training in Plymouth in our building on Catherine Street, right in the city centre. We do it every few months, so there's generally a training course that we can book you onto. Equally with that, we wouldn't throw you in at the deep end. Once you are trained, you can shadow someone else who's been there before, done that, and has a bit more experience. If you're still not feeling quite up to it, you can maybe go in pairs. If you've got a friend you can volunteer with, you can go in together, or you can go in with our community connector if you wanted a bit more professional, maybe support as well. But most of the situations we do very sort of low level, and
yes.
The sort of people that we're helping, their main issue would be loneliness. If there was anything more complex that they maybe needed to deal with, we would suggest that they maybe targeted that first and then came to us when that issue was. We also have a support at home service, so when people go home from hospital, we settle them back in and then provide up to 6 weeks of support, so perhaps things like food shopping and helping that person to get out and about and regain their independence.
But this is different.
This is a different process. So I actually have 2 roles within the Red Cross. My other role is running that service for Cornwall, so I know a little bit about both. So if you do have questions about it, I'd be happy to answer that.
The Theatre Royal pantomime this year is going to be Peter Pan. It opens on the 15th of December and finishes on the 13th of January. One of the lead parts is to be played by Steve McFadden, otherwise known as Phil Mitchell in the TV soap EastEnders. Keith Jolly went along to the recent pantomime press call and spoke with him.
Steve McFadden, welcome to Plymouth.
Thank you.
And, is Plymouth something that you're familiar with?
A little bit, yeah. Not a lot, though. Not as much as I'd like to be, but we're going to remedy that soon, and I'll be down here savouring the delights of Plymouth and all it holds.
Because I was reading a bit about you before you came along, and you're interested in sailing, so is that something that you could do down here?
I won't be doing it in the middle of the winter, and my boat, which I've got in Falmouth, will be on the hard, drying out. So I won't be going out in the rough sea in the winter. I go out from Falmouth, so
all right.
I do a bit of fishing, swimming, and it's just general mucking around on boats, really.
And you don't come across any crocodiles?
No.
Can we go back to when you first started to get into acting? How did that come about?
I don't know, I was 25. I thought I suddenly sort of wanted to do it, like, obsessively. Didn't know what I was doing, but picked up some texts from Foyle's, the bookshop, learnt them and went and did some auditions and got into RADA, amazingly. But, I was the oldest person there. There was a lot of 17, 18-year-olds and me. I was 25. And, so it was a bit of a shock because RADA was based on Gower Street, which is actually the road down to the West End, and I used to sell stuff out of a suitcase on Oxford Street, so it was my route to work. One of my jobs, because I worked with my dad, who was a street trader, and then suddenly I'm in a leotard and a string vest, doing ballet at the bar amongst a load of the kids. It was a bit of a shock, but it's paid off in the end, as I say.
Because you then went in to do bit parts in various things and that.
Yeah.
How did the EastEnders job come up?
Just went for an audition. They wanted somebody who was unfortunate enough to look like Ross Kemp, and they found me, basically. And they had Ross in mind already because one of the writers knew Ross from Emmerdale. He played a runaway soldier, someone on the run, and who was hiding in the, wherever Emmerdale's filmed. And so they knew what Ross had, and they wanted to bring some of that to the square, and they were looking for two brothers, and Ross fitted half of the side of the coin, and then they found me. I fitted the other half.
Did you have any idea when you first started it that you would still be doing it now?
No, you just couldn't begin to imagine that was, it wasn't like, someone else has done this. There wasn't a sort of brother relationship on the screen that you could say, we want you to be like so-and-so and so-and-so. I mean, when I first was working with Ross, I was thinking, who are they like? It's like a sort of a Cockney Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but two brothers that loved each other but, fell out occasionally. So you couldn't predict it because no one else had done it, so it wasn't predictable.
But it must be a wonderful thing to do, to be able to do something like that where you have this sort of, some people will hate you, won't they?
Not a lot of people hate me. No, not a lot of people hate Phil. Not a lot of people hate Phil. They just they kind of understand.
Perhaps he's misunderstood then.
Yeah. Well, I think they do understand. They understand where he's coming from, or feel, that he's doing something that he thinks is right, and he gets it wrong. But inside, he's a sort of a good person, and he gets it wrong. So he's quite a human.
Because you worked with Barbara Windsor as well, didn't you? I mean, that must have been wonderful.
It's someone said to me yesterday, who's my favourite actor I've ever worked with. It's got to be Barbara, because she's the full package. She can act, and she's a lovely person as well.
Now, let's talk about Peter Pan, and let's talk about pantomime first of all, because when did you first start going into pantomime?
It's about 12 years ago, and just got asked to do Peter Pan with Matt Slack, funnily enough, who's from around here, and just sort of started doing it and found out it wasn't as easy as I thought it might be. I thought you just putting funny costumes on and going easy behind you, but then I soon realised that people that are good at it, they really know what they're doing. People like Andy, people like Matt Slack, Bobby Davro, you know, there's great people, Brian Connolly, and I went and watched a lot of pantos and learnt a lot, and I'm somewhere near being okay at it now, but it's not easy for an actor like me, because it's, you know, you kind of feel a bit, what am I doing up here, you know? But I'm more than comfortable with it now. I love it, and it's a chance for a few laughs and have a bit of fun.
Get the audience behind you as well.
Yeah. Or not.
Or not. So you've done Peter Pan. What other pantomimes have you done?
You know, the Flesh Creep I was the year before last, and you know, done Aladdin, and just all the baddies and all the pantos, basically.
So you quite enjoy coming on stage and people booing you?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to talk about the crocodile, because just before we had the press call, and there was you sort of in the mouth of the crocodile. I mean, now apparently, talking to Jonathan, the one on stage is going to be even bigger. Yeah, well, Kudos do amazing production, so the props and, you know, special effects will be out of this world. So I'm sure when we see the crocodile in real life on stage, it'll be a lot scarier and 10 times bigger than the one out there. So you're here from December, you know, here now, but when the pantomime opens, you'll be here from December, 15th of December to the 13th of January. Yeah. What's Christmas going to be like for you? Enjoyable. I'll get my family down here, and I've got the kids. And, you know, we'll all get together. It's, you know, my kids think of panto as Christmas. That's what Christmas is to them. Yeah. They come see the show, and, you know, we hang out with, you know, whoever it is, the princess or the fairy or the jugglers and the dancers, and so my Christmas is panto. And you'll also get a chance to explore Plymouth as well. Yeah, which I can't wait to. The seafood, the pubs, the geography as well, just those, you know, the sea being there, and I mean, are you going to be based up on the Hoe? Yeah, I'm going to be around here. Yeah. So you'll be within in the distance of Plymouth Sound. Yeah, and I'll be going and getting oysters and cockles and whelks and indulging in my love of seafood. No jelly deals though. Oh, if they've got any, but it's not good round here for eels, is it? You ain't got enough mud. That's right. Mind you, there's mud up the river in there, actually. When I think of it. Yeah. Maybe there are eels here. Well, Steve, I hope you enjoy yourself in the I think I'm going to. I'm sure. And hopefully get a chance to speak to you again. Lovely.
Just for you, the Plympton Podcast.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Andrew Hill. Plympton now has a new associate vicar, the Reverend Will Sweeney. He was formally licensed to minister in the parishes of St Maurice and St Mary at a special ceremony recently. He will initially work quite closely with the Reverend Robert Harris at St Mary's before becoming a lot more involved with St Maurice towards the end of 2018 when the Reverend Roger Beck retires. After a cake-cutting ceremony held in the parish centre after his licensing, the Reverend Sweeney spoke briefly to respond to the community's welcome.
Thank you all very much. It's lovely to see so many of you, and especially so many from St Thomas to make sure I really have gone. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Bishop and Archdeacon, for coming, and all of you for your lovely welcome. I generally really look forward to getting to know you all more, to serving the thousands, apparently, people of Plymouth enjoy. So please enjoy the food. Thank you to those who prepared the food and drink. It's lovely. It's quite rare that I've only got sort of 2 inches down a glass at this stage of the evening. But thank you very much. Please do keep me, Natasha and I, in your prayers over the coming weeks, and please be assured of our prayers for all of you also. So thank you very much.
Now, don't forget that in between podcasts, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter for regular news stories related to Plympton and District and coverage of events in pictures and video, as well as details of upcoming events you might like to go to. Recent news stories there include the Plympton Neighbourhood Policing Team moving to Crown Hill from the 4th of December, controversy over a relaxed code related to planning consents at Sherford, and a whole lot more. You can find it all at facebook.com/Plympton Podcast. Remember as well, if you have information about prospective news stories or an event to promote, you can email details to plymptonpodcast@gmail.com. Morgan Lewis is this year's recipient of the Marjorie Linden Award. The award was set up in her lifetime by Marjorie herself, who was a past Stanator of our town, and it is awarded annually by each Stanator at the end of their term in office. Immediate past Stanator Rose Hamley presented the award at the September meeting of the Plympton Community Council.
Morgan has achieved a great deal as far as I'm concerned. He's did it when he was 14, he's now 15, and he attends Field School. And back in February, along with about 11 others, he went to a selection day to actually go on the Morva. And on the 3rd of April, he set sail for around Britain on the Morva. The Morva is a sailing project. Morva is the Cornish for seahorse. It's a charity which provides opportunities for young people to experience sailing. It's run by Matt and Vicky Broad, and they are based in Sutton Harbour. Your first stop was Ireland, where you visited Belfast, Carrickfergus, Dublin. Then you went on to Scotland, where you visited Oban, Fort William, through the Caledonian Canal to Dundee and Edinburgh. Then next you went to Newcastle, Grimsby. You didn't go too keen on Grimsby, I hear.
No, Grimsby is great.
And then I went to London, where they sailed up the Thames to moor in St Catherine's Dock, alongside another Bowman, and apparently that's the style of the tall ship.
Yeah, it was beneficial, and there's only 14 in the world, and that's 12 that they know what they are, so for two to be together is rare.
That's very good, isn't it? To take lots of photographs.
Yes.
Oh, good. And then that's the start of their homeward journey via Dover, Yarmouth, the Isle of Wight, on to Salcombe before they met with the BBC Spotlight team by the breakwater who filmed them, Waddling to Plymouth.
Yeah.
So did you enjoy it?
I did, yes.
Was it quite arduous at times?
Yeah, the first week was it was difficult, and then especially the first journey going to South Wales, that was probably the worst one.
A lot of people were seasick, I think,
Yes.
Yes, well, I think you've done very well, and I think we'd like to congratulate her.
This message isn't aimed at you. You know that on a motorway, a red X above any lane means that you can't drive in it and could be prosecuted if you do. But apparently, there are some drivers who don't realise this and are a danger to themselves and to other road users. So those drivers do need to know that a red X above any lane means that the lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle, emergency services or road workers. For more details, they should search online for smart motorways and never drive in any lane with a red X above it.
Imagine a perfect day at work. The office rang saying, "Come in later," so you could get a seat on the train. Your promotion arrived with the choice of working 3 days from home. And the boss paid for a celebratory lunch with coffee and chocolates. What a thought. For many, there's as much likelihood of that happening as there is of a day without making coffee for the drunken parents who were fighting when you got home from work, or without calls from angry neighbours saying your mother tipped the bins out at midnight searching for a drink, or without Dad's social worker ringing to say he'd overdosed again and was in the mental health unit for another detox. There are over 1 million people in the UK with alcohol-dependent parents. The National Association for the Children of Alcoholics cares and can help in many ways. Visit nacoa.org.uk or call the helpline on 0800 358 3456. You're not alone.
In an ancient sunnery town, with programs just for you, the Plympton Podcast.
Back now to Plymouth City Council's Planning Committee. Earlier on, we heard an impassioned plea by a resident in Magdalen Gardens seeking consent for structural alterations to assist with the day-to-day needs of a disabled child. Planning Committee member Councillor Maddie Bridgman had considerable empathy with the application.
I went on the site visit yesterday and we met with the neighbours, and I was concerned initially about this and the effect it would have on the neighbours, but it was a beautiful sunny afternoon and I can't actually see any legal reasons to turn this application down, and anything that makes your life easier I think has to be approved really. I live with someone who has severe disabilities and incontinence, so I can understand and appreciate your daily struggles. So with that in mind, I'm completely 100% in favour of granting this application.
Councillor Davey.
I think we're probably all moved by Mr. Lindsay's tale and sort of what's going on. The reality is that we have to divorce ourselves completely from that because it has absolutely no bearing on the planning application. And in fact, we shouldn't be making the decision on that, much as we feel within our heart that we want to. But I'm happy to say that I can see no reason to refuse the application anyway. I'm really surprised that something as local and small as this is actually been referred to the committee. I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Okay, I should clarify this application was referred by Councillor Terry Beer, who unfortunately, due to holidays and missing speaking to the planning officer, or I'm not exactly sure exactly the sequence of events, but although she was reasonably happy with the application eventually after the negotiation, was not in a position to withdraw the referral to committee because the time had elapsed, and I should have made that. So it's on the committee, and Councillor Beer would have been here, but she missed the opportunity to withdraw it. Because it was on the agenda, it had to continue. So I should have explained that at the beginning. Sorry. Right. Councillor Pengelly.
Thank you, Chair. I could agree with Maddie and Sam, both what they've said, but sticking to planning reasons to agree to it. I've been through the report quite thoroughly. The design is in keeping, all materials used are matching, no significant loss of light, no impact on trees, etc., etc. I propose we take the vote to accept the officer's recommendation. Simple as that. I don't think it should have even been here today.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Like you, Chair, I'd like to extend our apologies to Mr. Lindsay, not just for the lateness of the hour, but for having to come here and actually interact in the way I think it was without. I hope I'm not being patronising, but it was extremely brave, and I'm sure we all pay tribute to him and the family. Planning-wise, this has got no-brainer written all over it, and I think that if there had been any planning problems that would lead us to have any caution approaching this one, I'm sure they would have come out by now. I think it's an excellent scheme and one that we should all be able to support.
We have a proposition by Councillor Pengelly. Councillor Pengelly, you're moving for to take the vote? Yeah. Put that to vote now, please. The application is approved.
More from the upcoming Theatre Royal pantomime now. Another lead part is being played by Andy Ford, and Keith Jolly has also been speaking with him.
Hi, I'm Andy Ford. It's me in Peter Pan.
So, Andy Ford, welcome to Plymouth. And I say welcome to Plymouth because you were born in Exeter.
I'm an Exeter boy, Devonshire dumpling, am I?
I mean, you've been playing pantomime for quite a while now, haven't you?
I think it's my 26th or 27th number one panto. Before that, I toured panto around the clubs and really small theatres around the Southwest and also South Wales and stuff, but doing the big stuff, this is about my 26th or 27th. So, and to do it in my own county for the first time.
That's right, yeah.
Wow, I'm excited.
Jonathan was saying that you never played Plymouth before.
Not this theatre.
No.
I've been to see a panto here years and years ago with Danny LaRue and Alan Stewart, and it was just wonderful. And I've done some of the biggest theatres. Well, I did the Royal Variety, I've done the Palladium and all the stuff, 7 years in Bristol. But this theatre is just gorgeous. And it's in my home county, so therefore I get all my family and friends are going to come and see it this year.
And also you get to play with Steve McFadden.
Oh, what a joy. I mean, we don't know each other that well yet, although today's been really good. I've met him a couple of times before because I worked with Cara Twinton and Joe Swash about 10 years ago now. And he was friends, obviously, with Cara because she was on EastEnders and Joe was. So we met him then. And then when I worked with Barbara Windsor, he came in again and we met again and had a few words. But today he's been really good, breaking barriers and getting on really well, actually. Really respectful gentleman he is. which is really important in this business.
That's right, yeah, because it must always be very difficult when you sort of meet up with your co-stars and that for the first time and wonder whether you're going to hit it off.
Yeah, well, he's a big star. I'm sort of like big in the panto world, but I mean, he's on everyone's tellies every night, so he's a big star and has a reputation of being the hard man and all that, and he's a joy.
Let's just talk about you, and how did you first get into comedy?
Well, I started off, my first paid gig was at the age of 12, so that was 48 years ago now. And I used to play guitar and banjo and sing Wurzel songs. I actually just played Adge Cutler in a musical about his life, so that was an adventure. So I started off in bands, and then I went solo. And then eventually, when I was in bands, if someone broke a string, I'd have to fill in. So I started doing a gag or two, and those started getting quite popular. So I started moving down that line. Eventually went solo, and it was half music, half comedy. Eventually, the comedy took over and over and over. And so now it's all comedy, which is great. I love it.
I was interested to find out also that you've got this online course that you do.
Oh, you've been doing your research, Yeah, it's called Confidence Through Comedy. It's taking the skills of the comedian and using them for everyday social life, enhancing personality, that sort of thing. Because a lot of the skills are interchangeable from the stage. To if someone says something to you in a pub and they use a word that has more than one meaning, if you come back with a comment using the other meaning, you've got comedy. So it's using those skills and developing confidence. I've got some lovely exercises like staring into the mirror in the morning for 3 minutes and talking to yourself, getting to know who you are, looking deep into your own eyes. It all sounds a bit voodoo-y, but it's really simple stuff and can help develop personality. And I love what I do. I'm blessed, and I've always had a bit of an outgoing personality, but some people are quite shy. So if I can help them using some comedy skills, why not? And there are people all around the world taking that course.
It's interesting you should say that, because I had a stammer when I was younger, and so obviously somebody said to me, talk to yourself in the mirror, and that's how I managed to sort of overcome that.
So it works.
It works to a certain extent, yes.
There you go. Well, I wouldn't know.
Until you fall out with yourself.
But it's good, because then so you have a conversation with yourself, but you don't want it the same conversation every day. So I say vary it. Yeah. Talk about different things, and then you start finding out ways of, if you're talking about one subject matter, finding different ways to describe that same subject matter, so you're not using the same word all the time. Because in comedy, if you use, just say, for example, there's a joke and the tagline is about an apple, well, you don't want to say apple 6 times leading up to the tag. So therefore you find different ways of saying apple, or autumnal fruit, Granny Smith variety, different ways to describe it, so that when you get to the tagline, it's fresh. So that, once again, those are comedic skills. But if you're listening to someone and their way of speaking to you is quite varied, as opposed to hitting the same thing every time, you're more interested, aren't you? So just social skills, really. How did we get on this?
Well, I suppose we ought to get back to Peter Pan, really, because...
yes, we were lost in a labyrinth there for a while, weren't we?
Can you tell me what part you play?
I am first mate Smee, Mr. Smee, Captain Hook's first mate, who loves the captain, although he's not too keen on him being nasty. So although he wants to help him, he also wants to help the good guys as well. So he has a dilemma, and I play that dilemma for comedy, which is a joy.
And you've got another big co-star as well in The Crocodile.
Did you see the one today? It's enormous. And apparently the one in the show's bigger than that. Apparently the one in the show eats that one for dinner. So yeah, great. So I love the moment when the crocodile's chasing the captain. And I mean, that's silent movie stuff, isn't it? So great. Yeah, very excited about it.
So do you ever get fed up with pantomime?
Never. It's the most important. I mean, it's been going since Victoria times, and probably maybe before that, when obviously the men played the ladies and vice versa. But it's become a bit more sophisticated, but it hasn't lost its essence, which is childish comedy played by adults, which I love. That's the ethos of my comedy, putting a child's body into an adult, so that when an adult stresses he'd do in a subtle way, but a kiddie would just throw their arms and stamp their feet. Make an adult do that, you got your physical comedy.
Are there any characters that you haven't yet played that you still want to play?
No, I think I've done more. Buttons I love. I've done Buttons, Muddles, Idle Jack, Simple Simon, Smee. This is my list of, I was just saying to Steve, he's my fifth stellar hook as John Altman, Nasty Nick Cotton, then Paul Michael Glazier, then Henry Winkler, then David Hasselhoff, and Steve McFadden. So that's not a bad list, is it?
It's a good list, isn't it?
And I've survived them all.
Yeah. Obviously, you don't live in Exeter now, do you?
No, I live up north. My wife's from the northeast, so, but, you know, the country's so small now. I flew down last night, 50 minutes from Newcastle, and I'm where I was born in Exeter. It's you know, the country's really shrunk. So I'm happy to live. I live right in the countryside, but I get to see more of my grandchildren actually living up there than when I lived in the Cotswolds, which is a bit more.
So do you get to see them over Christmas or not?
Yeah, too right. And this year, of course, they'll all be coming down to see the panto.
Well, Andy, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you.
A pleasure, mate. And if you want to bump into me again during the run, I'll be very happy to do some more chatting.
In an ancient gunnery town, the Plympton Podcast.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area, drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Alright, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Enjoy yourselves this bonfire night. But remember, even a little sparkler burns at around 2,000 degrees centigrade. Don't mess with fireworks.
Andrew Hill. Time to hear again from Lucy Goldring of the British Red Cross. Chadwood councillor Glenn Jordan asked her about the extent to which they are connecting with other organisations when delivering their new project.
Yep, so Matt, who's the community connector who's based here in Plymouth, he's been with us since May. That's sort of what he's been working on over the last few months, is building up those connections with other organisations in the area. He's from a military background himself as well, so he's definitely gone through those routes. And he's spoken to SAFA, and we've directed him to the children's centres. He's done a brilliant job actually of linking with organisations, but because of some medical issues he's had, he hasn't necessarily been able to get on the ground as much as we would have liked. So that's partly why I'm here representing today, to be able to start making those links with the community and really getting them and letting you know what we're doing and supporting you, and equally you supporting us. So that's what we're looking to do now. But yeah, so we are linking in with those stages. And got a list as long as my arm. Yeah, we've been in touch with the elders too, because our support at home service works quite closely with them as well, and they've been really supportive. And I think sometimes with all different organisations you can get a sort of sense of competitiveness, which we don't like. We don't think that's the way to solve it. You want to work together to help people, because at the end of the day you're all trying to do the same thing, and that's helping people. So if maybe we're not necessarily the best suited to support someone, we can say, oh, have you tried X, Y, and Z? Or maybe our volunteer could then help them to look into other sources of support, like the elderly, like the vulnerable groups. What I'm trying to build up really is our sort of Bible of what is available here and what we can say to people. Did you know on a Wednesday, Margaret takes everyone to swimming or something? I don't know. Whatever is available really, and the more we know, the more we can help people to use those services. If you've got any ideas, throw them at me. We can take referrals from anybody, so it can be a friend, a neighbour, a relative, it can be a GP, a social worker, anyone out in the community can refer the person in. So generally we would go through some background checks then at that stage when we take the referral. Matt, or the community connector, would go out and visit that person first and go through all the paperwork and do all the boring bits and pieces and chat with them about what they might need to do. So if they have a particular interest in maybe gardening, and then we've got a volunteer who likes gardening, we could set them up together. So you generally go with someone who maybe has similar interests to your own, and you could impart wisdom into them about what is available locally.
Instinctive Sports, who have a running group every Tuesday night at St Mary's Parish Centre, have raised £1,100 from their annual Plym Valley Challenge run. Once again, they have donated it to St Luke's Hospice, and the presentation was made last month to Nina from St Luke's, who gave them an indication as to what their donation could achieve in tangible terms.
And we just had new figures actually. It's £1,100 to look after somebody in their own home on an average, so you're looking after one whole patient and their family, which is great. And that patient could last with us for quite a while as well. So thank you so much for that. I have got some really good news. The fundraising did quite well. They planned for a small deficit because we were launching new crisis teams and things like that. So it was 150,000 they planned for that, and we were dead on, so that was really great. So our fundraising went very well last year, and because of that we saved more spend, which was good, and we're looking after 7% more patients than we did last year at the moment. So I'm really, really pleased with that, because we work hard. You work hard every year. You've been supporting us since we just looked 2002. It's £7,320 now with this, because I picked this up in January and I come again and I get this pay. I'm not going to expect it every year, okay? It's not every year that much, but the fact that the effort went in and you bought your beautiful t-shirts, I understand the IS didn't go down very well, did it? Shouting that, come on, it's probably not the best thing to do as you're running around, but they look really great, so that'd be good if you could have a photo. And I was wondering if I could give you my business card and maybe send a photo on to me. Would that Oh,
be
yeah, would that be alright?
Yeah.
I'm a bit cheeky, but you don't get where I am without being a bit cheeky. But yeah, so thank you very, very much for your continued support. Alright, I won't go on because I went on in January.
And after the presentation, Fred Jenkins from Instinctive Sports told me more about the running club, which meets at St Mary's Parish Centre every Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, the running club's been going for 34 years in total, and really well established. We've got around 60 members at the moment, and we've been based in the Plympton area for maybe about 4 years now. So, we're a club that sort of welcomes all sorts of runners, all sorts of abilities, male, female. So basically anybody who wants to have a go of running, even complete beginners.
Now, you're having time trials this evening. Is this the normal format of a Tuesday night, or does it vary from week to week?
We try and do different things on a Tuesday. So, for example, a time trial is just a really fun way of helping people to see how they're getting on with their running, how they're progressing. But we do different runs on different weeks, so different activities. Sometimes, we'll go and have a run in the summer into Saltram or Plimbridge Woods. So, try and cater for everybody.
So if all sorts of people with different abilities get together on one night, does that present any sort of strategic issue?
No, we always try and help to sort of guide people around no matter what their abilities are. We never leave anybody behind, so we'll buddy people up with experienced runners and just make sure that they don't get left behind. So,
and just how seriously do people take this? Do they go on and enter marathons and things like that?
Yeah, all sorts. I mean, we've had people who started off as complete beginners, and then within 12 months or so they've been starting running marathons. It's just terrific. And when people start, they think, I could never run a marathon, or I could never do a half marathon or a 10k race, but once they've got their confidence going, it's amazing how well they develop and how quickly they develop.
Now, you've done a presentation here tonight to St Luke's, and I gather you've been supporting them for many years now. What do you do to raise money for St Luke's?
Well, St Luke's has been a recognised charity almost since the beginning of the club, sort of over 30 years ago, and I would say over that period of time we've probably raised well in excess of £30,000 in total, and we've had a long established relationship with them. Generally what we do is we organise a race every year in Plimbridge Woods for runners from the local area, and all the proceeds from that race we donate every year to St Luke's Hospice.
I see somebody had a T-shirt, the Plym Valley Challenge. That was what was involved. That was what was set up to raise this money.
That's right. Yeah. So the race is called the Plym Valley Challenge. So that's something we organise every year in June.
And you're very easy to spot when you're out running because you've got your distinctive, very bright yellow T-shirts.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got our black and yellow kit. So we look a bit like bumblebees in some ways, but very distinctive coloured kit. So easy to spot.
You're hoping perhaps that some other people will join the group here on Tuesday evenings. If people want to do that, how do they get in touch?
Yeah. mean, they could just come along to St Mary's Church Hall, just off Market Road in Plympton, around about 7 o'clock, sort of any Tuesday evening. We'll give them a warm welcome. Or they can have a look at the Instinctive Sports Running Club website, www.instinctivesports.co.uk, and all the information about the club is on there. So, yeah, great to see you if you want to come along.
And you cater for both ladies and gents?
Absolutely, yes. All people of all abilities, so anybody over the age of 16 we can get going.
And is it just Tuesdays you have your activities, or do you set up other events?
Yeah,
as well?
I mean, our main club night is a Tuesday, but small groups of us do also meet on a Sunday morning and quite often on a Thursday evening as well at various sort of locations around the Plymouth area.
No, you're going out and doing this time trial in a minute. I mean, it's quite some hilly terrain here in Plympton,
yes.
Isn't it? How much of a challenge is that?
Well, I mean, certainly, you can't escape the hills in Plymouth, and, it's very, very hard to avoid a run that does have hills on it. So, I mean, the time trial route that we have, it's a 5K, a 5-kilometre route, just over 3 miles, and 1 or 2 little ups and downs, as you'd normally expect. But, people like the challenge.
And how much internal competitiveness is there among your members?
Well,
on these things?
I mean, the whole idea of the club is, we're very much a fun-running club, and it's all about fun, and, people can take it as seriously as they want and be as competitive as they want, but the emphasis is always on fun at all times.
Yep. OK, well, Fred, thanks very much indeed for telling us about it. Congratulations on the money you've raised for St Luke's this year, and we hope you have every success as you go forward from your new location here at St Mary's Church Hall.
Thanks very much, Andrew.
The Vintage Vinyl Shop in Moreland Road raised over £200 for Macmillan cancer support during a coffee morning at the shop last month. I met co-owner Lee previously to this and asked him why vinyl is now making a resurgence.
A lot more interest with the media and just general interest. A lot of the bands are now doing festivals, which they didn't do before.
And what sort of gave you the idea of setting up this shop here, and why did you choose Plympton in particular?
Well, we're both local to the area, and it's something that we're passionate about doing.
And it's a bit like an Aladdin's cave in here, really, isn't it? Because it's not just the records you've got a whole load of other things. Tell us a bit about the sort of range of things that you have here in the shop.
We do a lot of music-related items, programmes, badges, stuff like that. But we also do age-related to the music scene, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Kitchenware, clothes.
I've even seen the old comics and Beano annuals and things like that.
That's right. It will, anything that jogs people's memories, get them thinking about the past items. Is brilliant for us.
And one of the problems, I suppose, is people have now focused on CDs or more on downloads. You tend not to have the equipment for playing vinyl, but I see that you've got some people, some vinyl players, record players in here that people could actually buy to play the vinyl on.
Yeah, we certainly do. Anything ranging from tape, CD, vinyl players, even wind-up gramophones.
And how difficult is it to actually get these days, though?
It's becoming increasingly more difficult with the new interest in vinyl, but we've got lots in stock.
OK, and you've got quite a range of different genres, looking at the stock of both albums and singles you've got here.
That's right, yeah, anything from rock, pop, 70s, psychedelic stuff. You name it, we've probably got a copy of it.
That's certainly the sort of place you could come in and have a browse around, you'd soon probably find something you'd want to buy.
Yeah, even if it's just a little trip down memory lane, it's a good place to come and have a look.
Yeah, and do you actually buy records if members of the public had some they didn't want? Is that something that would be of interest to you or not?
Yeah, always keen to buy new stock. People clear out their lofts, garages, spare rooms. Come and have a chat with us, and I'm sure we can sort something out. OK,
well, we wish you well with the shop here, Lee, and all the best.
Excellent, thank you very much.
And alas, that's it for another month. Thanks to audionautics.com for our backing and theme music. Hope you've enjoyed our selection of features this month. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. But until our next audio podcast, thanks for listening, and bye for now.